I never thought my perfectly curated life could crack open on an ordinary Tuesday morning in December, but that's exactly how it started. My name's Harper Quinn, 32 years old, senior marketing executive at a fast-growing tech startup in downtown Seattle. I live in a sleek two-bedroom condo on Capitol Hill with floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the Puget Sound like a postcard. On any given day, you'd find me in tailored blazers and Louboutin heels, rushing to meetings, sipping oat milk lattes from the cafe downstairs, and posting aesthetically filtered stories of weekend hikes in Discovery Park or bottomless mimosas at that cute French bistro in Fremont. My Instagram grid was a mood board of goals. My fiancé, Ethan Coldwell, was the cherry on top. Tall, charming, venture capital handsome, the kind of guy who could talk valuation models at a networking event and then quote Naruto over candlelit dinners at Canlis. We were 8 months from our wedding. Save the dates had already gone out. The venue was booked at a vineyard on Bainbridge Island. Life felt secure, predictable in the best way. I told myself that was happiness. That Tuesday started like any other. Ethan had left early for a breakfast meeting in Bellevue, kissing me on the forehead before he slipped out the door. I lingered in bed a little longer, scrolling through emails on my phone, then finally dragged myself up for a quick Peloton ride before work. After my shower, I realized we were almost out of time to renew our lease. The building management had been sending reminders for weeks. Ethan always handled the boring paperwork stuff, so I figured I'd surprise him by digging out the old copy and scanning it over to the office. His home office is at the far end of the condo, all dark walnut and mid-century vibes. One wall is nothing but built-in shelves lined with design books, framed photos of us in Tulum and Iceland, and those little succulents I keep buying even though I kill them within a month. His desk faces the window, overlooking the ferries gliding across the water. I love that room. It smells like cedar and his cologne, something woody and expensive. I pulled open the deep bottom drawer where he keeps file folders labeled with color-coded tabs: taxes, insurance, travel, house stuff. I flipped through them, humming along to whatever playlist was drifting from the living room Sonos. Behind the 2023 taxes folder, my fingers brushed something that didn't feel like paper: a thick cream envelope, heavy stock, the kind you'd use for wedding invitations. My name was typed across the front in a clean serif font: Harper Quinn. No return address, no stamp, just my name. A little shiver ran through me. Ethan and I don't keep secrets, at least I didn't think we did. Maybe it was something sweet, an early Christmas surprise? He'd been dropping hints about a big gift this year. I glanced toward the hallway, half expecting him to pop back in for forgotten AirPods like he sometimes does. The condo was silent except for the distant hum of traffic 12 floors below. I slid my thumb under the sealed flap and opened it. Inside was a single silver key, small, old-fashioned, the kind with intricate teeth and a looped head, like it belonged to a vintage lockbox or an antique door. No tag, no note. Wait, there was something else. A folded card, same cream paper. I unfolded it carefully. For the truth you deserve, use it before New Year's. A friend. The handwriting was elegant, looping, definitely feminine, not Ethan's blocky architect-style print. My pulse kicked up a notch. I read it again, then a third time, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Truth? What truth? And why the cryptic deadline? I sat down hard in his ergonomic chair, the leather creaking under me. The key felt cold in my palm, heavier than it should. I turned it over and over, looking for markings, initials, anything. Nothing. My first instinct was to call Ethan. "Hey babe, someone left me a weird envelope in your drawer. Any idea what this is about?" But something stopped me. The note said, "A friend," not "from me" or "love Ethan." And why hide it in a place I rarely look? If it was a surprise, wouldn't he have left it somewhere I'd stumble across it sooner? I slid the envelope into my tote bag, heart thudding in a way that had nothing to do with my earlier workout. The rest of the morning blurred. I called in sick to work, first time in 4 years, claiming a migraine. Then I sat on the living room couch staring at the key for a solid hour, turning possibilities over in my mind like stones. Safe deposit box? We didn't have one. His office? Too obvious. A gym locker? He switched gyms 6 months ago. Maybe a post office box? but why would someone send me a key to that? By noon, I couldn't stand the condo silence anymore. I grabbed my coat, stuffed the key in my jeans pocket, and headed out into the gray Seattle drizzle. I drove aimlessly at first, through downtown, past the Space Needle, over to West Seattle, stopping at every place I could think of that might take a physical key. Storage units, his old university alumni center, even the stupid escape room place we'd done for his birthday last year. Nothing fit. The rain picked up, drumming on the windshield as I sat in traffic on the West Seattle Bridge. My phone buzzed with texts from coworkers checking in, from my mom asking about holiday plans, from Ethan. "Hope you're feeling better, babe. Dinner tonight?" I typed back a quick, "Sure, love you," feeling the lie settle like lead in my stomach. By evening, I was exhausted, damp, and no closer to answers. I parked in our building's garage and sat in the car longer than necessary, key pinched between my fingers. When I finally went upstairs, Ethan was already home, loosening his tie in the kitchen, pouring us both wine. "Hey, beautiful. Rough day?" "You have no idea." I smiled back, accepted the glass, and clinked it against his. "Just one of those headaches. I'm okay now." We cooked pasta, talked about his meeting, laughed about some investor's ridiculous pitch. Everything looked normal, felt normal. But as I lay beside him that night, listening to his breathing even out into sleep, I stared at the ceiling and felt the key burning a hole in my nightstand drawer. Something had shifted, a hairline fracture in the foundation I'd built my whole adult life on. I didn't know it yet, but that little silver key wasn't just going to open a lock. It was going to open everything.
2 days after finding that damn key, I was a ghost in my own life, pacing the condo at odd hours, jumping at Ethan's texts like they were live wires. "Miss you today, babe. Early dinner?" one read that Thursday morning. I stared at it, thumb hovering before typing back a vague, "Swamped with work, rain check?" Work was the last place I wanted to be. My brain was a hamster wheel spinning on that note. "For the truth you deserve. Use it before New Year's. A friend." Who the hell was a friend? And what truth could be so buried it needed a secret key? I couldn't focus. By 10 a.m., I'd blown off a client call and grabbed my keys instead. The silver key was in my jeans pocket, a constant weight like carrying a live grenade. I needed flowers, something normal, something to fake smile over when Ethan got home. Pike Place Market was my go-to spot this time of year, with holiday wreaths on the stalls and those massive poinsettia buckets glowing under the gray sky. It was a 20-minute drive from Capitol Hill, traffic God's willing, and the market's chaos might drown out my paranoia. Parking was a nightmare, as always. I circled the lot near the waterfront twice before squeezing into a spot by Victor Steinbrook Park, the Olympic Mountains hazy across the Sound. The air hit me like a slap, briny, laced with fried fish and evergreen from the tree lots. Tourists swarmed the main arcade under the iconic neon clock tower, kids squealing as Pike Place fish guys hurled a 30-pound Chinook salmon overhead, crowd cheering like it was the Super Bowl. I weaved through, past the original Starbucks with its line out the door, Rachel the piggy bank gleaming under the public market sign, mechanical now, tails swishing for coins. I tossed a quarter in, whispering, "Give me a sign," half joking, half desperate. The flower stands were a riot of color: crimson amaryllis, white orchids, buckets of lavender roses that smelled like hope. I picked a lush bouquet of sunflowers and eucalyptus, bright, defiant against the drizzle, paid the vendor with her gap-toothed grin, and turned to head back. That's when I saw it. Tucked off to the side of the lower-level staircase, near the post alley entrance where the gum wall's sticky rainbow oozed its gross magic, was a row of old-fashioned lockers. Not the sleek, modern ones for luggage services. No, these were relics. Tarnished brass fittings, maybe from the market's early days in 1907, when farmers wheeled wagons up Pike Place to dodge middlemen. Weathered metal doors, numbered 1 to 20, bolted into the brick wall, like they'd been there since the arcades were built. Tourists milled nearby, snapping pics of the fish toss, oblivious. But me? My heart slammed against my ribs. The key in my pocket burned. Had they always been there? I'd hit Pike Place 100 times, brunch dates, holiday shopping sprees, but never noticed these. The lock on number 13 gleamed just enough under the dim bulb, intricate teeth matching my key's bite perfectly.
13, fitting for the bad omen vibe. My hands shook as I approached, bouquet clutched like a shield. A street busker strum a guitar nearby, Dylan cover floating on the breeze. How many roads must a man walk down? Yeah, universe, rub in. Glance around, no cameras obvious, just a family arguing over chowder samples at Pike Place Chowder. I slid the key in slow, teeth catching with a soft grind. It resisted at first, like it hadn't been turned in years. Then, click. The doors swung open with a rusty creak that echoed in my skull louder than the fish flying overhead. Inside, no cash, no love letters, no smoking gun. A slim, leather-bound journal, edges frayed like it'd been carried in a purse for months. Black, supple calfskin embossed with a faint LC in gold leaf. Next to it, a slim flash drive, matte black, no label. That's it. No envelope, no instructions. My breath came shallow. I snatched them both, slammed the door, clang, locked it, and bolted. Bouquet under one arm, journal and drive burning in my tote, I practically sprinted up the Pike Street hill climb stairs, dodging a group of cruise ship escapees in Hawaiian shirts despite the 40-degree chill. Heart pounding, I didn't stop until I hit my car, fumbling the locks with wet fingers. Rain pattered the roof as I sat there, engine off, staring at the hall. The journal first. First page, that same looping feminine script. If you're reading this, Harper, you already know something's wrong. Keep going. You're stronger than you think. Leela. Leela? No Leela in Ethan's world. Not a coworker, not a cousin, not the barista at our coffee spot. Ethan's life was an open book. VC meetings, golf weekends with bros, family barbecues in Bellevue. But this screamed intimate. I flipped pages, stomach twisting. Dates started 18 months back. Austin, SXSW conference Ethan had networked at. Met him at the hotel bar, charms the pants off everyone, literally. A pressed cocktail napkin glued in, scribbled Ethan and L with a heart. My vision blurred. More entries, stolen weekends, work trips to a cabin in the Cascades. Leavenworth, Snoqualmie? Photos too, Polaroids of him grinning shirtless by a fire pit, her arms around his waist, red hair wild. Leela Carter, the Venmo ghost haunting my periphery. I shoved it back, hands trembling so bad I dropped the flash drive under the seat. Fished it out, but didn't plug it in, not here with tourists peering into cars for parking spots. Drove home on autopilot, bouquet wilting on the passenger seat, rain smearing the windshield like tears I refused to shed. Ethan texted again. Everything okay? Call me. I ignored it, blasting Phoebe Bridgers to drown the nausea. By the time I parked in the garage, it was pushing 2 p.m. Condo empty. Ethan in Bellevue till 6. I hid the coat in my closet, behind winter boots, and collapsed on the bed. Leela's words looped. You already know something's wrong. Did I? The late nights, the password-protected phone, the way his eyes slid away during wedding talks. I chalked it up to stress. Now, betrayal hit like fairy fog, thick, sophisticating. That night, Ethan came home with takeout from Matt's in the market, rotisserie chicken, my favorite. Brought your fave, you seemed off. His smile was perfect, dimples flashing. I kissed him hello, arranged the sunflowers in a vase, laughed at his day stories. Robot mode. But as we ate on the couch, sound fairies twinkling outside, my foot tapped under the coffee table. The tote waited upstairs, a Pandora's box. When he crashed early, another big meeting tomorrow, I waited till his snores filled the bedroom. 1:17 a.m. Guest bathroom, door locked, laptop balanced on the vanity. Flash drive in. Password prompt? No, opened straight to folders. Receipts, flights, payments, hotel logs, Fairmont Olympic, weekends I thought he was golfing, Austin confirmations, Cascades cabin in his name, Venmo to L.C. Carter, 500 here, 2K there, not gifts, patterns screamed allowance, embezzlement spreadsheets too, his firm's offshore slush fund, siphoned thousands, not just cheating, criminal. I read till 4 a.m., bile rising, printing silent pages on the portable Epson I'd grabbed from work. Evidence stacked in a shoebox under the sink. Leela's last entry. He'll lie, Harper. He's good at it. You need more than my word. Find the rest. The rest? What else could gut me? Dawn crept through the frosted window as I flushed the toilet for cover, slipped back to bed. Ethan stirred, arm draping over me.
"Love you," he mumbled. I lay rigid, staring at the ceiling. Key now joined by ghosts. The perfect life? Shattered. But that click in the locker, it unlocked something fiercer. Rage. Resolute. Me. Whatever came next, I wasn't running blind anymore. New Year's loomed, deadline ticking. Leela's friend had handed me the first thread. Time to pull.
I didn't sleep that night. After locking the bathroom door at 1:17 a.m., I sat cross-legged on the heated tile floor of the guest bath, back against the tub, laptop glowing in the dark like a guilty secret. The condo was dead quiet except for the low hum of the fridge downstairs and Ethan's occasional soft snore drifting through the walls. I told him I had an upset stomach, white line number 57 this week, and he'd kissed my forehead, murmured, "Feel better," and rolled over without a second thought. Easy for him. The journal felt heavier in my hands now, like it had absorbed the weight of every lie it contained. Black leather, gold-embossed LC on the corner. Leela Carter. I traced the letters with my thumb, then flipped it open under the vanity light. First entry, March 14th, 2024. Austin, SXSW, rooftop bar at the Fairmont. He walked in wearing that navy blazer I'd end up stealing later, ordered a mezcal Negroni, and pretended he didn't notice me staring. We talked for 3 hours straight. Startups, Seattle rain, how we both hate small talk. When the bar closed, he asked if I wanted to see the bats under Congress Bridge. We never made it to the bridge. A dried violet petal was pressed between the pages, brittle now. I could picture it. Ethan in Texas heat, sleeves rolled up, laughing that deep laugh he saves for when he's really charmed. The same laugh he used on me in Napa 5 years ago. I turned the page. Photos started showing up around May. Polaroids, the kind from those little Fujifilm cameras everyone's obsessed with again. Ethan on a cabin porch in the Cascades, flannel open over bare chest, coffee mug in hand, mountains behind him. Her arms around his waist from behind, red hair spilling over his shoulder, both of them grinning like kids who'd gotten away with something huge. Another one, them in a hot tub at night, steam rising, string lights overhead, his head thrown back laughing. I hadn't seen that expression on his face in, God, how long? My throat closed. I swallowed hard and kept reading. June 2024. He says he's going to tell her, keeps saying it. After the next funding round, once Q3 closes. I hate that I believe him every time. July. Brought me that necklace from Tiffany's, the open heart pendant. Said it was just for me. I saw the charge on his Amex later. Same card he uses for our groceries back home. August. Weekend in Leavenworth. Pretended we were just friends to the Airbnb host. Cooked pasta on the little stove, danced to old Ryan Adams songs, made love on the rug in front of the fireplace. He whispered he's never felt this alive. I asked when he's leaving her. He changed the subject. There were ticket stubs glued in, Sounders game, a concert at the Gorge I remember him saying he went to with the guys. Venmo screenshots, $800 for birthday surprise, $1,200 labeled cabin deposit, all to LC. By September, the tone shifted. Her handwriting got sharper, loops tighter. He's engaged now, showed me the ring pic on his phone like it was no big deal. It's complicated, he said. Complicated. That's what I am. The side piece he flies to twice a month? I told him I'm done waiting. He begged, said he loves me more. God, I hate how much I want to believe that. October. Harper seems nice from the photos, polished, successful. I wonder if she knows how often he checks his phone when he's with her. I wonder if she feels it, the distance. That one hit like a fist to the sternum. I set the journal down for a minute, pressed my palms to my eyes until I saw stars. Nice. Polished. That's what I'd become, a curated version of myself. Meanwhile, he was living a double life with someone who saw the real him, or at least the version he wasn't giving me anymore.
I opened the flash drive next. No password, folders neatly labeled receipts_hotels, flights_payments to LC, cabin leases, MISC. Hundreds of files. Hotel confirmations at the Edgewater on dates I thought he was crashing at Jake's place after drinks, flight itineraries to Austin, Portland, even one to Santa Barbara I vaguely remember him calling a quick investor thing. Bank statements showing transfers from an account I'd never seen, offshore, Cayman Islands flagged. Not just cheating, embezzling, 6 figures gone from his firm's accounts, funneled through shell expenses marked Consulting LC Strategic. I printed everything, page after silent page, the portable printer whining softly in the quiet. Stacked them in a plain manila folder I stole from Ethan's office earlier. Evidence. Proof. Armor. Back to the journal. November entries were raw. I told him it's me or her. He cried, actually cried, said he can't lose me, but he can't blow up his life either. Classic. I should walk away. But then he shows up at my door at midnight with that look, and I let him in. Every time. Last entry, dated December 10th, just 11 days ago. If you're reading this, Harper, I'm sorry. Not for loving him, I can't help that, but for the coward I've been. I thought if I left the key, gave you the truth, maybe it would force his hand, or maybe it would free you. Either way, you deserve to know. He'll lie. He's brilliant at it. You'll need more than my word. The drive has everything. Use it. And whatever you do, don't let him make you doubt yourself. You're worth more than being someone's backup plan. I closed the journal, sat there until the bathroom fan clicked off automatically, plunging me into total darkness except for the laptop screen. Tears came then, hot, silent, furious. Not loud sobs, nothing that would wake him, just a steady stream down my cheeks as I stared at a selfie of them I hadn't noticed before. Ethan kissing her temple, both of them glowing in golden hour light somewhere in the San Juans, probably on that solo sailing trip he took last summer. I wiped my face with the sleeve of his old Harvard sweatshirt, the one I'd been sleeping in for years, and packed everything into a shoebox under the sink, behind extra toilet paper rolls. Childish hiding spot, but it would do for now. 4:47 a.m. I crawled back into bed beside him. He shifted in his sleep, arm reaching for me automatically, pulling me close like nothing was wrong. His warmth felt toxic now. I lay stiff, eyes wide open, watching the first gray light of dawn creep around the blackout curtains. By morning, I was hollowed out but weirdly calm. Made coffee like usual, kissed him goodbye at the door. "Have a great day, babe," smile nailed on. He left whistling. I called my boss, took a personal day. Then I sat at the kitchen island with a second espresso and opened my laptop again. Searched for Best Divorce Attorneys Seattle, Financial Fraud. Bookmarked 3. Emailed one for a consult using my personal account. The deadline loomed. Use it before New Year's. 10 days left. Whatever Leela thought she was starting, she'd lit a fuse. And for the first time in years, I felt something sharper than numbness. I felt awake.
I wanted to confront him the second the sun came up on December 12th. I rehearsed it in my head 1,000 times while I pretended to sleep that night. Storm into the kitchen at 6:30 a.m. when he's blending his post-gym protein shake, slam the journal and the printed spreadsheets on the marble island, and watch that perfect face crumple. I pictured the excuses tumbling out. "It's not what you think, babe. She's obsessed. She's lying. Let me explain." I even imagined the tears, the begging, the promises that this time he'd change. But I didn't do any of it. Lila's last entry kept looping in my brain like a warning track. "He'll lie, Harper. He's good at it. You need more than my word. Find the rest." Find the rest? What did that even mean? More journals? More drives? A confession video? I had receipts, photos, timelines that lined up like a prosecutor's exhibit list. But she was right. Ethan was a master storyteller. He'd spun entire weekends out of thin air for 18 months. If I went at him now, half-cocked and emotional, he'd gaslight me into next year, make me doubt the evidence I'd held in my own hands. I'd seen it happen to friends, smart, successful women who ended up apologizing to the men who cheated on them. So I swallowed the rage and played the part. That morning, I got up first, brewed his favorite blue bottle pour-over, scrambled eggs with the chives he likes. When he wandered in shirtless, hair still damp from the shower, I handed him a mug and kissed him like nothing had imploded inside me. "Morning, gorgeous," he said, sliding an arm around my waist. "You sleep okay? You were tossing." "Just holiday stress," I lied smoothly, flipping an egg. "Venue deposits due, and my mom's already asking about the guest list." He laughed, nuzzled my neck. "We got this. Team Quinn Caldwell." I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. The next week was Oscar-worthy. I went to work, nailed a campaign pitch for a new AI client, posted a cute couple throwback on Instagram with the caption, "Lucky to be building forever with this one," blue. Friends liked it, left heart emojis. My best friend Mia texted, "You two are goals." I stared at the screen until the screen went black. Behind the scenes, I was a machine. I booked a consultation with Rebecca Lang, the top divorce attorney in Seattle who specializes in high net worth splits and financial misconduct. Her office was in a sleek Belltown high-rise with views of Elliott Bay. She wore a charcoal suit, no-nonsense bob, and listened to me for 45 minutes while I laid out the timeline, handed over copies of everything. No originals, those stayed locked in a new safe deposit box I opened under just my name at a different bank. "Smart," she said, scanning the embezzlement spreadsheets. "This isn't just infidelity, it's potential criminal exposure for him. We can use that leverage quietly, freeze accounts, protect your assets, but we need to move carefully. No confrontations yet. Let him think everything's fine until we're ready." I nodded. "How long?" 2, maybe 3 weeks to gather full financial discovery. After New Year's, we hit him with papers. Clean, surgical. New Year's, Lila's deadline. It felt like fate. In the evenings, Ethan and I decorated the Christmas tree like a damn Hallmark movie. He picked the playlist, Michael Bublé, Vintage Mariah. We hung the ornaments we'd collected on trips, glass gondola from Venice, tiny Space Needle for our first year together. When he lifted me up to put the star on top, I wrapped my legs around his waist and laughed on cue. He kissed me slow, whispered, "Can't wait to marry you." I whispered back, "Me neither," and meant it in a way he'd never understand. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of his phone when he left it unlocked. Passcode still my birthday. Ironic. Photos of his laptop screen when he stepped away for calls. More transfers to L. Carter. A new folder labeled Q4 bonus allocation with her initials hidden in the metadata. I forwarded it all to Rebecca's secure portal. Sleep became optional. I'd lie awake cataloging the lies. The late client dinner that matched a hotel charge in Bellevue. The guy's golf trip to Bend that lined up with flights to Austin. Every memory now had a shadow version. One night, I drove to Alki Beach at 2 a.m., parked facing the city lights shimmering across the water. I screamed in the car until my throat was raw, punched the steering wheel, cried until my mascara ran down my neck. Then I wiped my face, fixed my makeup in the visor mirror, and crawled back into bed beside him. He stirred. "Where'd you go?" "Couldn't sleep. Went for a drive. Cleared my head." He pulled me close. "Love you even when you're weird at 3 a.m. I let him hold me, counted his heartbeats, memorized the weight of his arm, so I'd remember exactly what I was walking away from. Christmas Eve, we hosted his parents for dinner. I made prime rib, roasted Brussels sprouts with bacon, the cranberry sauce his mom loves. She hugged me tight, said, "We're so lucky to have you, Harper." His dad toasted to "the beautiful couple starting their forever." Ethan squeezed my hand under the table, eyes shining. I toasted back, voice steady. Later, washing dishes while they watched It's a Wonderful Life in the living room, I caught my reflection in the dark window over the sink. I looked fine. Polished hair, red sweater, diamond studs catching the pendant lights, but my eyes were dead. That night, after his parents left and he fell asleep with the TV flickering some old action movie, I sat on the balcony in the cold, wrapped in a blanket, city quiet below. Snow flurries started, rare for Seattle. I watched them swirl under the streetlights and made a promise to myself. No blowout fight, no satisfying movie moment where I throw the ring in his face and storm out into the rain. Just quiet, ruthless precision. I'd wait until every piece was in place, until Rebecca gave the green light, until the new year turned and Lila's deadline passed. Then I'd disappear from his life the same way he'd disappeared from mine. Slowly, then, all at once. I went inside, slipped the engagement ring off my finger for the first time in 8 months, and set it on my nightstand, not dramatically, just testing how it felt. Lighter. I left it there all night. In the morning, I'd put it back on, smile, plan the New Year's Eve party he wanted to host, but something inside me had already started walking away, and it wasn't coming back.
By mid-December, I was a walking shell. I'd perfected the art of functioning on autopilot. Wake up at 6:15, Peloton for 30 minutes even though my legs felt like lead, shower, blow out, tailored slacks and silk blouse, oat milk latte on the way to the office, smile in meetings, crack jokes during stand-up, send Ethan flirty texts midday. Thinking about you in that navy suit, kissy, while Rebecca's paralegal emailed me updated discovery on his hidden accounts. But inside, I was unraveling, thread by thread. Sleep was a joke. I'd lie next to him for hours, eyes wide in the dark, replaying Polaroids of him kissing Leela's temple, spreadsheets with her initials buried in expense lines. When I did drift off, I'd jolt awake at 3 a.m., heart racing, convinced he was watching me. Some nights, I'd slip out of bed, pad to the kitchen, and sit at the island with a glass of water I didn't drink, just staring at the city lights until the sky turned that pre-dawn gray. Coffee became survival fuel. 3 shots in the morning, another at lunch, cold brew in the afternoon just to keep my hands from shaking. I dropped 8 pounds in 2 weeks without trying, my cheeks hollowed, collarbones sharper under the cashmere sweaters I wore to hide it. Mia cornered me at a holiday happy hour in Belltown. "Harps, you okay? You look tired." I laughed it off. "Just wedding planning and end-of-year crunch. I'm fine." She bought it. Everyone did. Ethan noticed, of course. He's not stupid. One night after a date night at Canlis, where I'd pushed salmon around my plate and pretended the champagne didn't taste like ash, he pulled me onto the couch, tucked my hair behind my ear. "Talk to me. You've been somewhere else for weeks." I almost broke right there, almost let it all spill out. The key, the locker, Leela, the money. But Rebecca's voice echoed, "No confrontations yet. Let him think everything's fine." So I leaned into his chest, let him hold me, and said, "I think I'm just burned out. Work's intense, and the wedding feels huge. Maybe I need a spa day or something." He kissed the top of my head. "Whatever you need, babe. Let's book a weekend away after New Year's. Just us. Tulum again?" I nodded against his shirt, breathing in the cologne that used to make me weak and now made my stomach turn. "Sounds perfect." The lies stacked higher. I started driving at night to escape the condo's walls. I'd wait until he was asleep, grab my keys, and slip out in leggings and an oversized hoodie. No destination, just motion. I'd cruise I-90 across the floating bridge, Mercer Island lights reflecting on the black water of Lake Washington like scattered diamonds. Or I'd take the long way down to Alki, park facing downtown's skyline, and blast whatever playlist felt like punishment. Lots of Phoebe Bridgers, Boy Genius, old Taylor Swift songs about betrayal I suddenly understood on a cellular level. One night, I ended up in Ballard, that funky neighborhood with the breweries and Scandinavian vibes. It was a Thursday, cold enough that my breath fogged the windshield. Parked outside a little brick building with a hand-painted sign, the Tractor Tavern. Live music spilled out, some indie band covering 90s alt-rock, guitars crunchy and raw. People stood on the sidewalk in puffy jackets, laughing, red-cheeked from beer and cold, dancing like no one was watching. I sat in my car for 20 minutes just staring at them. They looked free, unburdened, like joy was still a thing that happened spontaneously instead of something you scheduled on a shared Google Calendar. I didn't go in that night, just watched until the set ended and the crowd thinned. Then I drove home, crawled back into bed beside him, and lay awake until the alarm.
But I went back the next weekend. Told Ethan I was doing a girls' holiday thing with Mia and some work friends. Drinks, ugly sweaters, the usual. He kissed me goodbye, said, "Have fun, don't do anything I wouldn't do." I almost laughed out loud. I wore jeans and a black sweater, no makeup except mascara, hair in a messy bun. Ordered a whiskey neat at the bar because wine felt too polite. Sat in the corner nursing it, pulling out the little leather journal I'd started carrying. Nothing like Leela's, just a cheap moleskin from Paper Source where I scribbled fragments of rage and grief when it got too loud in my head. He touched her the way he used to touch me. How many times did he say, "I love you" to me while thinking of her? I hate that I still check if he's breathing in his sleep. The band was good, local guys doing a mix of originals and covers. The crowd was loose, singing along to a stripped-down version of Everlong. I closed my eyes for a second and let the music hit like medicine. That's when she appeared. A woman slid onto the empty stool next to me, ordered a Rainier tall boy like it was nothing. Late 20s, sun-bleached blonde hair in a careless bun, freckles across her nose, ripped jeans and a faded UCLA hoodie under a denim jacket. She had this easy, sun-kissed vibe that didn't belong in Seattle in December. "Mind if I steal this seat?" she asked, flashing a smile that felt like actual warmth. "Place is cacked." I shrugged. "All yours." We didn't talk first, just listened. But when the band launched into The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, total throwback, she turned to me, eyes bright. "This song was my anthem in high school. You?" I surprised myself by answering. "Same. Used to scream it in my mom's minivan." She laughed, a real one, head thrown back. "I'm Sky. Harper." We clinked, her beer can against my whiskey glass, and somehow that was it. The dam cracked. Maybe it was the whiskey, maybe it was how she listened without pity, maybe I was just that desperate for someone who didn't know the old version of me. I told her everything. The key, the locker, Leela, the embezzlement, Ethan's perfect lies, the wedding we were still pretending to plan. It poured out in a rush, words tumbling over each other while the band played on. When she finished, my voice raw, she didn't say, "I'm sorry," or "What a jerk." She just looked at me for a long second, then said quietly, "You deserve mornings that feel like freedom, Harper, not cages built out of secrets." I stared at her, tears threatening for the first time in public. She bumped my shoulder. "One day at a time, okay? Tonight, you're here. You're breathing. That's a start." I nodded, throat tight. The band ended with an upbeat cover of Wagon Wheel. Sky grabbed my hand, pulled me into the tiny dance floor crowd. I resisted for half a second, then let go. We jumped and sang off-key with 30 strangers, and for 3 minutes, I forgot. When it was over, she handed me her phone. "Put your number in. Road trip soon. No planning, just go." I did. Walking to my car later, cold air hitting my flushed cheeks, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. A spark. Small, fragile, but real. I didn't know it yet, but that night in Ballard wasn't just an escape. It was the beginning of running towards something instead of away.
It was December 20, the shortest day of the year, and Seattle felt like it was holding its breath under a thick blanket of gray. Work had let out early for the holidays, Ethan was tied up in some last-minute investor calls, and I was staring at my phone in the condo kitchen when Sky's text popped up. "Road trip. Tomorrow. 1 day. No planning. Sunrise to sunset. You in?" I'd saved her contact as S. Mountain that night at the Tractor Tavern, half expecting never to hear from her again. But we'd texted a few times since. Light stuff. Memes about bad coffee, a photo she sent of the sunrise over Shilshol Bay with the caption, "This could be us, but you're adulting." I'd laughed out loud in a meeting and had to pretend it was a funny email. Now this. 1 day, no planning. My thumb hovered. Ethan would be home around 7, expecting me to help wrap gifts for his nieces or finalize the New Year's Eve menu we were supposedly hosting for 20 people. Rebecca had emailed that morning. Discovery almost complete, papers ready to file January 2. I was supposed to be lying low, keeping the facade intact. But God, I was tired of pretending. Me. I'm in. Hell yes. Picking you up at 5:30 a.m. Dress warm, bring 0 expectations. I didn't sleep much that night. Packed a small backpack instead. Thermals, beanie, my new journal, a thermos of coffee I'd brew at 5 a.m. When Ethan crawled into bed around midnight, smelling like scotch and conference room stress, he spooned me from behind and murmured, "Big day tomorrow?" "Yeah," I whispered into the dark. "Really big." He was out in minutes. I lay there, counting his breaths until the alarm on my phone vibrated silently at 5 a.m. I moved like a ghost, coffee dripping into the thermos, note on the counter, "Girls' day hike with Mia, back late, love you." Phone on Do Not Disturb except for Sky. By 5:25, I was downstairs in the lobby, backpack slung over one shoulder, heart hammering like I was 16 sneaking out past curfew. Her Jeep Wrangler pulled up at 5:30 on the dot, matte black, a little rusty at the edges, roof rack loaded with camera bags and a surfboard, even though it was 40 degrees. She leaned over and pushed the passenger door open from inside. "Morning, runaway," she grinned. Messy bun, no makeup, freckles standing out in the cold. She was wearing a puffy Patagonia and wool socks with Birkenstocks like a true West Coast rebel. I climbed in. The heater was blasting, Phoebe Bridges already playing low. "Fleetwood Mac for the drive north," she said, handing me an auxiliary cord like it was 2010. "Your playlist or mine?" "Yours," I said, buckling in. "I trust you." We headed north on I-5 before the city even woke up. Holiday lights still twinkling on overpasses, radio towers blinking red against the indigo sky. She drove with one hand on the wheel, the other wrapped around a travel mug. We didn't talk much at first, just watched the darkness thin into that soft Pacific Northwest blue. Somewhere past Everett, the Olympics started rising on the horizon, snow-capped and massive. "Tell me if you want silence or noise," she said eventually. "Music's good." She nodded, cranked the volume, Landslide came on, Stevie's voice filling the Jeep, and I felt my chest loosen for the first time in weeks. We exited near Mukilteo, wound down to a tiny public beach access I'd never known existed. The ferry terminal glowed in the distance, but here it was just us, gravel crunching under tires as she parked facing the water. Dawn was still 20 minutes away. She killed the engine. "Coffee refill?" We sat on the tailgate, legs dangling, sharing the thermos as the sky shifted from navy to rose gold. The sound was flat calm, reflecting the first streaks of light. A lone heron stood in the shallows like a statue. I used to come to places like this after my ex imploded everything, just sit until the sun came up. Felt like proof the world still turned, even when mine had stopped. I nodded, throat tight. I keep waking to wake up from this nightmare, but it's real. "Yeah, it sucks, but you're here. That's real too." The sun breached the horizon then, slow, burning orange melting into pink, painting the mountains and the water in fire. I watched it without blinking until my eyes watered. When it was fully up, bright and unapologetic, something in me cracked open. Not dramatic, just space, room to breathe. We stayed another hour, built a small driftwood fire in one of the established pits, even though it was technically questionable this time of year, roasted marshmallows she magically produced from the glove box, drank cheap red wine from plastic cups even though it was 8 a.m., laughed about nothing, took Polaroids with her old SX70, me flipping off the sunrise, both of us making stupid faces, one of me alone staring at the water, wind whipping my hair. Around noon, we drove farther north, windows down despite the chill, playlist shifting to upbeat, old Ya-Ya-Ya's, new Maggie Rogers, stopped at a roadside diner in Edison for grilled cheese and tomato soup that tasted like childhood. She told me about growing up in Santa Barbara, surfing before school, how her ex had cheated with her best friend, and she packed her van and drove north until the ocean felt different. "I didn't plan to stay," she said, dipping a fry in aioli, "but the light here, it's moody, makes you feel things deeper. Good for photos, good for healing maybe." By late afternoon, we were on Chuckanet Drive, that winding stretch above the water with viewpoints that make you pull over just to stare. She parked at a trailhead, grabbed her camera, and we hiked a short loop through old-growth cedar and fern cathedrals. The air smelled like Christmas, pine and salts and damp earth. She shot rolls of film, me leaning against a massive trunk, light filtering through moss, the sound glittering below. "You're photogenic when you're not trying," she said, advancing the film. "I feel lighter," I admitted. "Good. That's the point." Sunset found us back on the beach, fire rebuilt higher this time, wine bottle almost empty. The sky exploded, purples bleeding into neon orange, clouds like brushstrokes. We didn't talk much, just sat shoulder to shoulder, passing the bottle, watching the show. On the drive home, windows up now, heat on full, she glanced over. "You don't have to go back to that life, you know. Not all of it." I stared at the dashboard lights. I know. But saying it out loud made it real. She dropped me at the condo around 10 p.m. Ethan's car was in the garage. He'll be asleep. I hugged her across the console, longer than I meant to. "Thank you," I whispered. "Any time, Harper. Seriously." I watched her taillights disappear down the hill, then went upstairs. Ethan had left the tree lights on. A note on the counter: "Hope you had fun with the girls. Miss you. Leftover tie in the fridge." I stood there in the glow, backpack still on, sand in my shoes, salt wind in my hair. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a ghost. I felt like the beginning of something.
Christmas Eve came and went like a scripted performance I'd rehearsed in my sleep. Ethan and I hosted both families at the condo. His parents flew in from Bellevue, mine drove up from Portland. 22 people total crammed into our open-plan living room, fairy lights twinkling on the tree, Bing Crosby crooning from the Sonos, prime rib carving station on the island. I wore the red cashmere dress he'd bought me last year, heels that killed by hour 3, smile dialed to 11. His mom hugged me twice, whispered how excited she was to call me her daughter-in-law. My dad pulled Ethan aside for a man talk about taking care of his little girl. Everyone toasted to the June wedding. Ethan's hand stayed on the small of my back all night, possessive and proud. I drank 3 glasses of champagne too fast, laughed at every joke, plated desserts like a pro. Inside, I was counting down the hours until I could breathe again. Rebecca texted at 11:47 p.m. while I loaded the dishwasher. "Papers ready. We filed January 2nd unless you say otherwise." I stared at the screen behind the pantry door, heart jackhammering. Thumbs up emoji back. That was it. The decision made in silence while Silent Night played in the next room. Christmas morning, we opened gifts under the tree. He gave me a pair of diamond earrings, stunning, tasteful, exactly what the old Harper would have squealed over. I kissed him slow, said thank you, meant it, and hated myself for it. I gave him the custom leather weekend bag monogrammed with his initials. He loved it. We made love that afternoon while both families were out at the movies, slow and familiar. And I let myself memorize every second because I knew it would be the last time. December 26th, he announced a late meeting downtown. I knew what it really was. Checked the offshore account activity on my burner app. Another transfer to L. Carter, $5,000 labeled consulting bonus. I smiled when he kissed me goodbye, told him not to work too hard. That night, I packed. Not everything, just one duffel bag, jeans, hoodies, favorite boots, the new journal, toiletries, laptop, the shoebox of evidence. I left the designer dresses hanging in the closet, the Louboutins lined up like soldiers, most of the jewelry in the safe. Took only the pieces that were mine before him, my grandmother's pearl studs, the simple gold band my parents gave me for college graduation. I wrote the note on heavy stationery from the desk drawer, handwriting steady even though my pulse wasn't. Ethan, I know everything, the trips, the money, Leela, all of it. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. Don't try to find me, don't call. The papers will come soon. Take care of yourself. Harper. I set the engagement ring on top of the folded paper, right in the middle of the kitchen island where he'd see it first thing. The diamond caught the pendant lights and threw tiny rainbows across the marble. It looked beautiful there. Final. I waited until his key turned in the lock at 11:52 p.m., heard him humming some Post Malone song, drop his keys in the bowl, call out softly, "Babe, you awake?" I stayed in the dark guest room, duffel by the door, lights off. He padded down the hall, paused outside our bedroom, then went in. Silence. Then the shower running. I slipped out. The elevator ride down 12 floors felt eternal. Garage cold and echoing. My car started on the first try. I drove straight to Sky's studio in Fremont, a tiny one-bedroom above a vintage shop, exposed brick, plants everywhere, fairy lights strung across the ceiling like stars. I texted her from the street, "Can I come up?" 3 dots, then, "Doors open, always." She met me at the top of the stairs in flannel pajama shorts and an oversized UC Santa Barbara tee, hair wild, eyes wide when she saw the duffel. "Shit," she said softly. "It happened." I nodded, couldn't speak yet. She took the bag from my shoulder, pulled me inside, closed the door. The place smelled like eucalyptus and fresh coffee. Her couch was a futon piled with Mexican blankets. She guided me to it, sat me down, disappeared into the kitchenette. Came back with 2 mugs of chamomile spiked with whiskey. We didn't talk for the first hour, just sat side by side, legs tucked under blankets, sipping until the shaking stopped. Outside, Fremont's holiday lights glowed through the big window, rocket silhouette, Lenin statue weirdly festive. Finally, I handed her the phone, showed her the note I'd left, the ring pic I'd taken for proof. She read it, exhaled slow. "You okay?" "No," I said, voice cracked. "But I'm free." She set the phone down, wrapped both arms around me. I cried then, ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs into her hoodie that smelled like salt air and film developer. She held me through it all, stroking my hair, murmuring, "Let it out. You're safe. You're here." When the tears slowed, she pulled back, wiped my cheeks with her sleeves. "Stay as long as you need. Couch is yours, bed's yours if you want it. We'll figure the rest tomorrow." I shook my head. Couch is perfect. She made it up with clean sheets that smelled like lavender, extra pillows, a hot water bottle for my feet. Tucked me in like I was something breakable. Sat on the floor beside me until my eyes closed. I woke once in the night, disoriented, heart racing, but the fairy lights were still glowing, and Sky was asleep in a sleeping bag on the floor next to the couch, close enough that I could hear her breathing. I listened to it, steady, calm, and for the first time in months, I fell back asleep without checking if he was home safe. Morning came soft, winter light filtering through the blinds. Coffee smell pulled me awake. Sky was at the tiny stove making pancakes. "Chocolate chip," she said, because chocolate fixes most things. We ate on the floor picnic style, legs crossed, Sirius XM indie station playing low. She didn't ask 20 questions, just let me talk when I was ready. I told her about the families, the earrings, the sex that afternoon, how I left the ring like a period at the end of a sentence. She listened, nodded, refilled my coffee. When I finished, she said, "So what now?" I looked around her studio, film cans stacked on shelves, a half-developed print drying on a line, her van keys hanging by the door. "Now," I said, "we make forward plans, not revenge plans, forward ones." She grinned, that sunrise smile. "Hell yes. First step, more pancakes. Second step, we get you a new phone plan today. Third step, road trip after New Year's. Big one, Joshua Tree, stars that'll wreck you." I laughed, actually laughed, chocolate on my lip. Deal. Outside, Seattle woke up to another gray day, but inside that tiny Fremont studio, with chocolate chip pancakes and a girl who'd become my lifeline, something shifted. The breaking point wasn't the end. It was the starting line.
January punched in like a hard reset. Rebecca filed the papers on the 2nd, just as planned. Ethan was served at his office downtown while I sat in a coffee shop in Wallingford, watching snow flurries swirl past the window. My phone stayed off for 3 days straight.
When I finally turned it on, there were 47 missed calls, 21 voicemails, and texts that started with panic and slid into anger, then bargaining. I didn't listen to a single one, just forwarded the log to Rebecca and blocked his number. His company launched an internal investigation the same week. The embezzlement trail was too clean to deny. My copies, Leela's originals, bank records Rebecca subpoenaed. By mid-January, he'd been quietly let go, reputation torched in the tight Seattle tech circle. I heard through Mia that he'd moved back to his parents' place in Bellevue. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. I took a 3-month leave from work. My boss was shocked, but supportive. HR called it personal wellness leave. I cashed out some stock options, found a tiny 1-bedroom garden unit in Wallingford with creaky hardwood floors, huge south-facing windows that actually opened, and a clawfoot tub I could soak in for hours. Rent was half the condo's mortgage. I furnished it slow. Thrift store, mid-century dresser, plants from Pike Place, a real bed with fresh white linens that didn't smell like him. Sky helped me move in on a freezing Saturday. We hauled boxes in her Jeep, blasted old Rihanna, rewarded ourselves with pho from the spot on 45th. She claimed the spare room as hers when I crash, strung fairy lights along the ceiling without asking, and left a stack of her favorite photography books on the coffee table. It felt like home faster than I expected. Therapy started the first week of February. Dr. Alina Chen, highly recommended, office in Fremont with a view of the canal. I walked there twice a week, rain or shine. We unpacked everything. The people-pleasing, the perfectionism, the way I'd measured my worth by how well I fit into someone else's life. Some sessions I cried, some I just sat in silence. One day I told her I felt guilty for being happier without him. She said, "That's not guilt, Harper, that's clarity." I deleted Instagram for a month. When I came back, I unfollowed everyone who made me feel small, archived every couple photo, started posting again, slowly, carefully. Sunrise from my new balcony, coffee art, books stacked on my windowsill, no captions needed. Sky taught me how to chase light. We'd wake at dawn most weekends, pile into her Jeep with thermoses and cameras, Golden Gardens when the marine layer burned off, Discovery Park trails when the maple leaves turned. She shot digital and film. I started with my phone, then borrowed her old Canon AE1. She showed me how to meter manually, how to wait for the exact moment the light hit someone's face and made them glow. We turned her bathroom into a darkroom. Red safe light, trays of developer, prints hanging like ghosts from a string across the shower rod. The first time I watched my own negative bloom into a photo of Sky laughing on the beach, something in me healed a little more. She was patient, never pushed. Some nights we cooked together, her killer vegan pad thai, my chocolate chip pancakes that actually rose now. Some nights we didn't talk at all, just edited photos side by side on the couch with Fleetwood Mac on vinyl. We took bigger trips as winter thawed. A long weekend in Portland, Powell's books for hours, food carts until we couldn't move, dancing at a queer bar in Southeast until 2 a.m. A week in Joshua Tree in March, Airbnb tiny house under stars so thick they hurt to look at. We hiked at dawn, napped in the afternoons, stayed up photographing the Milky Way until our fingers froze. One night we built a fire in the pit, drank boxed wine, and she asked if I was scared to be alone forever. I thought about it. I said, "Not anymore. I'm scared of going back to who I was." She nodded, poked the fire. Good answer. Spring hit Seattle hard, cherry blossoms exploding along the UW Quad, tulips at Skagit Valley, sunbreaks that felt like miracles. I started running again, not for the body, but for the endorphins. Took a pottery class on Wednesdays, came home with lopsided mugs I actually used, went to therapy solo, no +1 required. Work called in April. They wanted me back part-time, offered a new title and raise. I negotiated remote 3 days a week, accepted. It felt like stepping into a life that fit, instead of one I squeezed into. Sky and I became a rhythm, inseparable but not defined.
Friends who held hands on hikes, who shared a bed on road trips because it was easier, who cooked breakfast shirtless on Sundays and didn't overthink it. She never asked for labels, I never needed them. We just were. Summer came fast. Midnight swims in Lake Washington when the water finally warmed, drive-in movies in Redmond, a spontaneous ferry to Bainbridge for oysters and rosé, dancing in random dive bars to cover bands murdering 90s hits. Every time I thought I'd peaked on joy, life handed me more. One August evening, we drove to Hurricane Range in Olympic National Park for sunset. Wildflowers everywhere, mountains glowing pink. She set up her tripod, shot me against the ridgeline as the light turned gold. Later, lying on a blanket watching stars pop out, she said quietly, "You're different now, brighter." I turned to her. "You helped." She smiled, traced a finger along my palm. "You did the work. I just held the door open." I kissed her then, slow, certain, no audience, no rush. It felt like breathing after holding air too long. We didn't name it that night, just went home, made love in my bed with the windows open to the city sounds, fell asleep tangled. By fall, I'd stopped counting months since the key, stopped checking for his name in industry news, stopped flinching at love songs. I was 33, single on paper, richer in every way that mattered. I had a job I loved on my terms, friends who showed up, a home that felt like mine, a woman who saw all of me and stayed. I learned joy wasn't a destination, it was the small yeses. Saying yes to dawn hikes, yes to bad pottery, yes to road trips with no itinerary, yes to whatever came next.
January felt like waking up in a body that finally belonged to me. The divorce papers hit Ethan on the 2nd, and by the 3rd, Seattle's tech gossip mill was humming. Rebecca handled everything with surgical calm: asset division, protective orders on the remaining joint accounts, a gag clause tied to the embezzlement settlement. He signed quickly. No contest, no public drama, just a quiet unraveling of 8 years, reduced to signatures on dotted lines. I didn't watch it happen. I was too busy building something new. I moved into the Wallingford Garden Unit on January 15, a 1920s brick walk-up with ivy climbing the facade, original oak floors that creaked like they had stories, and windows so big the light poured in like it had nowhere else to be. The previous tenant had left a built-in bookshelf. I filled it with plants first, then books. Thrifted a teal velvet sofa from a Capitol Hill estate sale, a mid-century dining table off Craigslist, string lights that made evenings feel like campfires indoors. Sky helped paint the bedroom a soft sage green one weekend, both of us in overalls, Fleetwood Mac blasting, paint in our hair and on our forearms. We ordered pizza at midnight and ate it on the floor because the table wasn't assembled yet. Therapy became sacred. Twice a week with Dr. Chen, walking distance along the tree-lined streets. We dug deep. Why I'd ignored red flags, how I'd tied my worth to being the perfect partner, the fear that alone meant unworthy. One session, I admitted I missed the version of myself who planned brunch menus and color-coded spreadsheets. Dr. Chen smiled gently. "You're not losing her. You're upgrading her." I took the full 3 months leave from work, cashed vested options, lived lean but intentional. Mornings were mine. Slow coffee on the tiny back patio, watching squirrels chase each other across the fence, journaling whatever came up, rage, grief, gratitude in random order. Afternoons, I wandered. Pike Place for tulips in February, Gasworks Park when the first sunbreaks hit, volunteering at the Fremont Troll cleanup because my hands needed to do something useful. Sky was my constant. She'd crash 2-3 nights a week, van parked out front like a guardian. We cooked experiments. Burnt risotto turned into arancini, perfect shakshuka on the 3rd try. She taught me film photography in her makeshift darkroom, the magic of watching an image appear in the developer tray, the smell of fixer sharp in the air. I bought my own Canon AE1 at a camera swap in Tacoma. We chased light everywhere. Dawn at Golden Gardens when the sky turned cotton candy, golden hour in Discovery Park with madrona trees glowing red, foggy mornings at Green Lake where the water disappeared into mist.
February brought a long weekend in Portland. We drove down I-5 with the Jeep packed tight, cooler of snacks, cameras, thrift store flannels, stayed in a tiny Alberta Arts District Airbnb with a clawfoot tub and record player. Spent a whole day at Powell's Books, arms full of paperbacks we couldn't afford but bought anyway. Ate our weight in food cart pods, Korean tacos, poutine with truffle oil, late-night donuts that melted on our tongues. Danced at a queer club in Southeast until the lights came up, sweaty and laughing, her hands on my hips guiding me through songs I didn't know. March was Joshua Tree, a full week in a minimalist desert cabin, off-grid solar, outdoor shower, nothing but sand and stars. We hiked at sunrise when the air was still cold enough for breath clouds, napped in hammocks during the heat, photographed boulders that looked like sculptures God forgot to finish. Nights were for campfires and cheap wine, lying on a blanket staring at the Milky Way so bright it felt close enough to touch. One night she asked if I was scared of being alone forever. I thought about it, wind whispering through creosote bushes. "No," I said finally. "I'm scared of settling again, but alone? I'm good at it now." She smiled, traced constellations on my palm with her finger. "You're not alone, though." Spring exploded in Seattle, cherry blossoms along the UW Quad like pink snow, tulip fields in Skagit Valley stretching in impossible color. I started running again, not for Instagram thighs, but because my body wanted to move. Took a pottery class at the community center, came home with lopsided bowls and mugs I actually drank from, went back to work part-time in April, negotiated remote flexibility, stepped into a director role that felt earned instead of performed. Sky and I settled into something undefined and perfect. Friends who held hands crossing streets, who shared beds on road trips because body heat was practical, who cooked breakfast in underwear on lazy Sundays, dancing to old Motown while bacon sizzled. We took the ferry to Bainbridge on a whim for oysters and rosé at sunset, swam in Lake Washington at midnight in July when the water finally warmed, drove to Hurricane Ridge for wildflowers and views that stole breath. Every adventure felt like proof I was alive. Sex happened naturally. First kiss under desert stars, first everything back in my sage-green bedroom with windows open to summer rain tapping the leaves. Slow, curious, laughing when we bumped noses. No labels, no pressure. Just yes and more and stay. By fall, I'd stopped measuring time in Since the Key, stopped checking industry newsletters for his name, stopped flinching at engagement announcements. I was 33, technically single, richer in every currency that mattered: time, peace, chosen family. I learned joy wasn't a finish line. It was the small, repeated choices, saying yes to 5 a.m. alarms for sunrise shoots, yes to pottery fails, yes to spontaneous ferries, yes to loving someone who never asked me to shrink. One October evening, we drove to Rattlesnake Ledge at golden hour, hiked the switchbacks talking about everything and nothing, her next gallery show, my upcoming presentation, whether we'd ever get a dog. At the top, the lake below glowed turquoise, mountains layered into infinity. She set up her tripod, shot me against the ridgeline as light turned honey. Later, sitting on a rock, sharing trail mix, she said, "You're different now, like you're lit from inside." I leaned my head on her shoulder. "You helped dig the tunnel." She laughed softly. "Nah, you brought the light with you. I just reminded you it was there." I believed her. The rebuilding wasn't a straight line. Some days I still cried in the shower over what I'd lost. Some nights I woke reaching for a body that wasn't there anymore. But the mornings after, I made my own coffee, in my own kitchen, opened my own playlist. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.
It's December 21 now, exactly 1 year since that Tuesday morning when everything cracked open. I'm sitting on the wide wooden balcony of a tiny cliffside Airbnb in Big Sur, legs tucked under a woven blanket, steam rising from my coffee mug in lazy curls. The Pacific stretches endless below me, waves crashing against jagged rocks with a rhythm that feels ancient and alive. Dawn is just breaking, skies shifting from indigo to rose gold, sun climbing over the Santa Lucia Mountains like it's got all the time in the world. Pine and eucalyptus scent the air, mixed with salt so sharp it wakes every cell. Sky's still asleep inside, tangled in white sheets, one arm flung over the pillow where my head was an hour ago. Her camera sits on the nightstand, lens cap off, ready for whatever light we chase today. We drove down Highway 1 from San Francisco yesterday, 12 hours of winding road, windows down, playlist full of old Brandy Carlisle and new Chapel Rowan, stopping every time the view stole our breath. We ate oysters in Monterey, watched sea otters float on their backs like they owned the ocean, laughed until our sides hurt at a roadside diner when the waitress called us "you two cuties." This morning, I woke before the alarm, slipped out of bed, pulled on her oversized UCLA hoodie and my leggings, brewed coffee in the little kitchen with the French press the host left, stepped out here alone to watch the sun do its thing. I think about the woman I was a year ago. Harper Quinn, 32, polished and performing, living in a condo that looked perfect on Instagram but felt like a museum of someone else's dreams, engaged to a man who was building his future on secrets, smiling through brunches and spin classes while something inside me quietly suffocated. I told myself that was happiness, security, stability, the right boxes checked. Then came the key, the locker, Leela's journal, the spreadsheets, the lies stacked higher than our Christmas tree. I remember the nights I couldn't breathe, the robot smiles at holiday parties, the way I cataloged every betrayal like evidence in a trial I was both prosecutor and defendant. I remember leaving the ring on the island, driving to Sky's studio with one duffel bag and a heart shredded to ribbons. I remember the first sunrise we chased together, the way the light hit the water, and something in me whispered, "You're still here. You made it through the night." This morning, watching the sun paint the cliffs gold, I realize I don't miss that old life. Not the condo, not the ring, not the version of me who thought joy was something you earned by being good enough for someone else. Joy isn't a destination. It's not the wedding venue or the promotion or the perfectly filtered photo. It's this. It's waking up next to someone who sees all your sharp edges and stays anyway. It's saying yes to 5 a.m. alarms for sunrise shoots in the desert, yes to burnt pancakes turned into laugh-worthy disasters, yes to dancing in dive bars to songs you half know. It's spontaneous adventures that scare you just enough to remind you you're alive. Midnight swims in summer lakes, road trips with no itinerary except chase the light, hikes where the view at the top makes you cry for no reason you can name. It's laughter with friends who became family. Mia flying down from Seattle last month for a girls' weekend in Palm Springs, the three of us drinking margaritas by the pool while Sky shot Polaroids, and Mia grilled me about finally admitting you're in love. I didn't deny it. It's the fearless freedom of choosing yourself every single day. I've learned that some mornings the coffee's burnt and the sky's gray and your bank account's tighter than you'd like. Joy isn't immune to that, but it's still there, in the way the steam rises from your mug, in the text from a friend checking in the song that comes on shuffle and hits exactly right. It's in the way Sky mumbles, "Come back to bed," in her sleep-rough voice when I slip out early. It's in knowing you don't have to perform anymore. You can show up messy-haired and makeup-free, with pottery clay under your nails and a half-developed roll of film in your bag, and still be enough. The sun is fully up now, blazing bright over the ocean. Seals bark on the rocks below. A pod of dolphins arcs through the waves like they're playing tag with the light. I hear the sliding door open behind me, bare feet on wood. Sky's arms wrap around my shoulders from behind, chin resting on my head. She smells like sleep and salt air. "Morning, beautiful," she murmurs. "Didn't wake you for coffee duty? Wanted to watch it alone for a minute, then share it with you." She kisses my temple, takes the mug from my hands for a sip. "1 year, huh? 1 year since the tea." She's quiet for a second. "And?" I smile into the sunrise. "And I'm really, truly falling in love with life again." She squeezes me tighter. "Good, because it's falling pretty hard for you, too." We sit like that until the coffee's gone, shoulder to shoulder, watching pelicans dive and waves crash and the world turn gold.
Inside, the bed's still warm. The day stretches open. No plans except whatever feels right. Maybe hike to Pfeiffer Beach with its purple sand. Maybe drive farther south to hear elephant seals grunt on the shore. Maybe just stay here, make love slow with the windows open, develop film in the makeshift darkroom we rigged in the bathroom last night. Whatever we choose, it'll be ours. I whisper to the ocean, wind carrying the words away. I'm here. I'm really here. And for the first time in forever, I believe it with every sunrise-painted bone in my body. Joy isn't something you find once and keep forever. It's something you choose every single morning. Today, I choose it. Tomorrow, I'll choose it again. And the day after that, because I finally know I'm worth it.